Okay. Hello, beautiful people. My name is Marika Gare, and this is the Inspiration Trilogy, a platform for women across the globe to connect, share advice, and have some meaningful conversations. So today's guest is Annette McGrath, who comes from a long line of gifted psychics, and she's the first one of her line to share her gifts professionally. So welcome to the show, Annette.
Hello, thank you for that.
Now, look, you and I have known each other a long time. We used to work together. We've known each other for years, and I love what you do, and I know firsthand how amazing your gifts are. But for the listeners out there today, do you want to share a little bit about yourself and your journey and how you got to where you are now with things?
Sure. It's something that I've had all my life, but going back in the day when I used to get messages and whatever, I was about 8. So back in the day, it was not considered normal.
Yeah.
So a friend of my mum's told her to put my clothes on inside out, my singlets and knickers, and chase around me with a cross and all that kind of
Oh, no.
But it still happened, and I'd get dreams and I'd get visions and I'd get everything. And then I would play around with normal playing cards, and my mum would always tell me, you should do readings. And then I was a single parent and I needed to make a little bit of extra money. So I went with a girlfriend of mine, and she was doing massages at the time. And my mum said, why don't you do readings? I'm like, I can't do readings. She says, do it, but don't charge anybody for it. And I'm like, okay, that would work. So I started doing readings like that. And that was in 2001.
Yeah.
So, and then I started doing it, and then eventually, as I was doing my readings and I started going to expos and everything else like that, one of my clients asked me, she says, why do you use cards? And I'm like, because I need it. And she's like, no, why? And I told her, and she's like, no, you use them because you're lazy. And I'm like, what? Inside, I'm like, how dare you? And then I sat back and I'm like, okay, let me just take on board. And the very next reading I did, I left the cards on the side and I just connect like I do now, and I've never looked back.
Yeah.
22 years now.
Wow. And I also know that you've done some other amazing things, like you've been on Psychic TV, I think, was it Psychic Radio, cruise ships, you've done tours to Kalgoorlie and around the place.
Yep.
You were also on, was it Channel 7's Australia's Best Psychic show a few years back?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So exciting.
Yeah, how did you find that experience? Because they really put you guys under a lot of chess, didn't they?
Oh, seriously, it was the best experience and the most frightening experience for me, you know, and I was scared because I was being judged with 2 other psychics. And my mum had said to me before I went, because she was watching the kids for me, and she says, just go and be you. You don't have to impress anybody. You don't have to prove anything. So I just did. And I know when I got the jewelry person, the girl with the jewelry, and they changed that on us at the last minute because they said we would be judging by jewelry. So we had to pick out who the piece of jewelry belonged to out of 5 women. And at the last minute, they said, oh, no, it's a medical alert bracelet. And I'm like, what? But I'm like, trusting universe 100%. And I actually got it right. And I was like, I knew I had it. I knew internally I had it right, but I was like, I wasn't sure, you know, that.
Yeah. And it's hard to have that confidence sometimes, and to really, I guess, believe what you're hearing. Some of it can sound so way out there.
Absolutely.
But it's not to the other person. So, yeah.
So that was really good. And then we did the reading at home, which is normal for me. We did the jewelry thing. I'd never done that before, so that was really challenging, but it was exciting. And then we did the visit to Ellsbury House, which I'd never seen. And then again there, they asked me what did I feel the place was, so I told them what I believed the house used to be, you know. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. It was amazing. And I'm like, yeah, I could do this for a living.
And you have, like I said, you've done some amazing things. You've also done, the Psychic TV radio, you've done cruise ships, you've done lots of different shows and that sort of thing. So with your journey into mediumship, you sort of explained a little bit what it was like growing up. Did you ever share your gifts with your close friends, and what kind of response was there, or did you really kind of keep that to yourself because of that reaction you'd had that you mentioned before?
I did share with my friends, my very close friends, but my best friend, and this is before I was doing readings, and she had a daughter, and she'd leave the daughter in the bedroom, obviously. And then I was there, and she said, why don't you, because I'm best friends with her, she says, you don't seem to connect with the baby. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, what do I do? And then my grandfather in spirit come and said, tell her. And I'm like, oh, I can't. And he says, tell her. And I told her, I said, one of the reasons, I said, because I said, what I'm going to tell you will upset you, but I have to tell you because now you can avoid it or walk away or do whatever. I said, I see a passing for the baby cot there.
Oh.
It was like, it was bad because she sat there, and like she told me later, she said, if you weren't my best friend, I would have been pissed off and annoyed. She said, but I know you come from a place of care and whatever.
Yeah.
So I told her, and I'm like, I hope I'm wrong. But anyway, the next morning, a cousin of mine rang her and said, I know you've already got 3 kids. She said, but I've got a baby monitor here. Would you like it? Just out of the blue as well. So when she told me that, and she says, it just confirmed that what I told her was true. So she got the second warning to be like, hey, be aware.
Yeah.
And after her initial shock, because nobody wants to hear that,
no,
but she took it on board, and by having the baby monitor there and just being a little bit more alert, not paranoid, but a little bit more alert, and baby's fine. She grew up to be a young lady.
Yeah. And see, that's where your gifts can they can change lives. And I know not just for sort of circumstances like that, like you said, being a bit more aware. It's just hearing messages from beyond. I know you do past lives and future readings and things like that. You do sort of all of those together. But, I remember coming to you for one of my first readings before we became friends years and years ago. And you said something from my gran that nobody else would know. And it just blew me away. And, I'd searched for years to find someone who was as gifted as yourself. It wasn't just some things are right, some things weren't, but you get every single thing every time. And it's just, it still blows me away every time. It shouldn't by now. But so have you ever had any experiences when you've been out and about where you've just had a spirit or some kind of message come through that's so strong you're just compelled to go up to somebody you don't know and pass on a message? Because I know it's hard to switch off too, right?
Oh, it is hard to switch off, So I learnt by really painful experience, because I did that once. A young fella had died in a car accident, and the woman I was giving the messages to, she was crying and she was upset, but I didn't realize. I just thought, her brother-in-law's coming through giving messages for his wife, which was a sister and that. When I went back to the shop the next day, the manager told me not to ever come back if I were doing that thing again.
Really?
So, seriously. And then I learned from there, I don't have the right to go and talk to anybody about this unless I have their permission.
Yeah, there's the free will. They need to be ready to hear it. Yeah.
I will, if I get information, I said, look, this is what I do. Are you open to some information? And if they say yes, I'll give it. And if they're like no, then I step back, because I can't put it on them. But
It must be hard though if you're getting messages that you really want and spirit wants to pass on, but if it's not willing to be received, it kind of stops there. It's a really difficult kind of place to be as well, I guess, because you want to be able to help spirits, of course.
Absolutely. Some of my funniest experiences and in-depth experiences, believe it or not, have been when I've been out drinking and I go to the toilet.
Yeah.
I do readings in the toilet.
But that's a quiet time, right?
It's embarrassing. And I remember one lady one time rang me when I had my shop, and she said, sorry, do you do readings? I'm like, yeah. She said, do you go out? I'm like, what? She said, do you have curly hair? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, look, I'm sorry, I sound weird. She said, but I went out one night and there was a psychic. Her name was Annette, the curly hair, not Annette because she didn't know my name. She said, but the lady had curly hair. She gave me a reading in the toilet. She's been her for years. I'm like, yeah, that'll be me. So I do readings in the most weirdest places, Marika.
More open to it when you're out and about too, you know, after maybe a couple of drinks and things like that, I guess.
I'm so open, it's not funny.
Oh, so what was one of your most memorable readings, or funniest? Have you got something that was really kind of stayed with you and you remembered?
Well, there's quite a few, but there's one, there's two. I'll tell you two. One was an old lady. She would have been 80 odd. She came to me for reading, and her husband had died 4 years previously. And she was sitting there, and he kept giving me this information. I'm like, this woman is in her 90s now. How am I going to do that? And I said, look, I said, I have to be blunt. She says, I said, but it's a little bit rude. She said, go ahead. She said, I've heard everything. I said, your husband tells me that when it is your time to pass and to cross over, he'll be waiting there. I said, and you better be prepared because he's going to make up for lost time. Now, I'm talking sexually, obviously, right? She lost it. She lost it. And she says to me, oh, thank God. She said, it's been such a long time. That's crazy. But then another lady, she came to me for a reading, and I told her she was going to meet this man. And what they do is they give me visual.
Yeah.
I said to her, sexually, you're going to have an amazing life sexually. I said, but he's going to be hung like a donkey. And she said, could it already have happened? I said, only if it happened exactly the way I've told you. She says to me, yes, it did. And yes, he is. It's like, and one lady, I've got to tell you this quickly. One lady came to me and she was maybe in her 45, 50. So she wasn't young. She wasn't old.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I said, look, I'm so sorry. I can't help what spirits give me. I said, does your husband have big balls? And she's like, I said, because all I'm seeing is a man in the bath and all I see floating on top is that. And she says, well, I don't know because I haven't seen that many. She says, but the men at work reckon that he actually does. So the funniest thing, because as a medium, as a psychic, whatever you want to call me, you don't normally see anything like that. But Spirit's they've got a weird sense of humor, trust me, because they show me things that I don't really want or don't need to be seen. You know,
it's what's right for that person, because some people would get sort of particular sense of humor and that kind of stuff. And so if they're open to receiving that, and what I love about you is there's no sugarcoating and making everything, you know, you say it how it's meant to be said and how it's meant to come across for them. And that's what's so great about your readings.
Yeah.
So have you ever experienced perhaps a difficult or unpleasant spirit that you've had to, I guess, deal with?
No, because most people that come through from spirit are coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
And it's surrounded by love. You know, what will happen is if somebody was a complete jerk in their lifetime or they were an abuser, I haven't come across people who've murdered or done anything like that, so I can't speak for that.
Yeah.
But people who've just been abusive to their wife or their daughter or whatever, they'll come through completely different, the way they were meant to be. They'll come through as loving and everything. They'll still tell, oh, I did this and I was wrong or whatever, but they come through differently. So no, I have not had that.
Yeah, so they come through as their pure selves, kind of cleansed of whatever they had on in this lifetime that may have been negative or challenging. So yeah.
What's challenging is that they are here to teach us a lesson. And it's not a lesson that we want to learn, mind you, because who wants to be abused? Who wants to be anything?
Yeah.
But some things in our lifetime that we need to go through so that our next lifetime, thank God, we don't go through it again.
Yeah. And it's that old cliche saying, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Like you said, difficult relationships and abusive and things like that. And I've been through, quite a few traumas, but it really does. It gives you that opportunity to learn and grow and just, transform yourself into a greater, more mature being, and you're more in touch with yourself and what you want and all those sorts of things. So it really does make sense. And I think the learning never really stops. Even as you get older, you have moments where things are going wonderful, and we spoke about this before, and then it's like the wheel of fate. It goes around, and you always will have times where you're not, it might be challenging, but then it'll go up again, and that's what life's about, is that cyclical motion. As long as you're not stuck on a merry-go-round because you're not listening to the signs, that's different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's just...
even me as a psychic medium, I deal with spirit, I deal with, positivity and all this kind of stuff. I go through negative stuff. I go through negative stuff just as much as the next person. But you grow from it, you learn from it, you take what you need to from it, and there's times where you don't want to take anything from it. You're like, no, I don't want to, bugger it. Yeah. But there's something there, and it's for everybody, not just you, me,
and
or
it helps you to connect with others who have been through the same sort of thing. So it's really, it's about being able to support and connect each other, and that's what I believe, this life is about as well. It's not about earning money and how great you can be. It's about connecting and sharing and growing those sides of yourself. So
the money is good. The money makes your life easier. But it's not the be all and end all. Yeah.
And I've always said that people don't really understand. I remember years ago I used to say, with one of my partners at the time, I don't care if we're living, I don't know, living in a trailer park or whatever. It's not that I was, or not that I want to, but if it meant we were together and we're happy and we're healthy, that's what matters. I guess that was my way of sort of explaining I don't care about fancy things. And yes, it's great. It's not, you need to get money to get by, and it makes life more comfortable. Where when it comes down to the core values of life, it's not important.
It's not the be all. It's not the be all and end all.
Yeah.
You've got to be happy with it.
Yeah, and being humble, I've been to places like Cambodia, and the people there are so beautiful, and honestly, they live, their lifestyle is obviously very different to ours, but they're just so beautiful. They're really they're there for each other, and they're, it's just a completely different world. I definitely recommend traveling to anybody, because you get to see how different cultures and different people live, and you come home and it's humbling, and you're grateful for what you have. But look, so I know that, as I say, that I know you're wonderful and you can do readings anywhere. So at the moment, so where if people are listening at the moment, they want to reach out to you and have a reading and chat about things, what's the best place to contact you? And do you do distant readings? That's something I just want to let the listeners know.
Yeah, well, obviously, yes, I do distant readings. So I do it through Messenger now, because nearly everybody's got Messenger.
Yeah.
So I'll do it. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, I can do it. Probably my mobile number is the best way for them to get in contact with me now. Yeah. Because I've had the same number for 22 years.
And I still have that. I've still got your little magnet from when we did the shopping.
So the phone number is obviously the best way for them to contact me, or I work in Malaga at Annette Crystals every second Saturday. So they can go there as well, and they can go there as well, and they've got my contact details.
Yeah, and so for the listeners, I will put the details in the bio below as well, and so they know how to reach out to you and when they can venture out to Malaga markets.
Or come to Bunbury.
Oh, yes, Bunbury as well. So is there anything that you want to add to listeners out there that they could perhaps a tip, I guess, so they could be more open and more aware of little signs around them? What's something that you can advise listeners there?
Okay. That's it's a good question, but it's a hard question. People might think, oh, it's easy. No, it's not easy.
Because everyone's
Because what
different, right?
happens a lot of times, people are into logic. They're into they're analytical, they're logical, you know, and a lot of times they shut themselves off from anything. The only thing that I could say to them is, number one, either at nighttime when you go to bed, just put it out to the universe and say, show me, what is it I'm meant to learn? What am I meant to understand? Who am I meant to see? You know, and then just wait for it to come. And don't walk around with this barrier, an invisible barrier around you, that people of the universe can't come in. You know, I had a lady today, she just lost her husband really recently, and he's been trying to get through to her, but she has an invisible barrier around her. That's her breathing, and she's like this.
And
nothing is going to penetrate that. All I say is, if you want to open up a little bit, allow yourself to breathe and just and put that to the universe. If you're looking for an answer, you know, I was doing a show at the convention centre one time, and one young girl came up to me after and said, thank you so much. And I'm like, why? Because I hadn't done a reading for her. She said, you just gave me an answer that I was looking for. And I'm like, what do you mean? She said, well, she went to bed the night before. She said she had the best job in the world, but had been offered another job that was as good as, you know, but she couldn't make her mind up which one to go for. And she put it to the universe, and she said, if I'm meant to take the job, by tomorrow, show me something to do with snakes and the colour purple. And when she's walked out, I'm on stage talking about snakes and the colour purple. So it's that basic, you know, put it out to the universe and say, hey, if I need to know, give me a sign, but make a specific sign.
Make it specific.
Make it weird. Make it weird. Make it a kangaroo with a hat on. Whatever it is, but it's got to be different. And then just sit back and wait for it. If you don't get it, and make sure you put a time frame on it. If you don't put a time frame on it, they might give you the information you need just before you're ready to kick the bucket, you know. So put a time frame on it. Say, by tomorrow morning or now, I want the information now. And then just sit back and wait, you know. But you've got to trust as well.
That's it. You've got to be open to it and be aware of things. And I know like lately I keep getting 111 every time I look at the clock, even when I don't know what time it is, middle of the night, morning, whatever. 111 all the time. It's been happening for weeks, and that's one of my signs, and that's where I know.
Exactly. You'll know. You'll know, because it will keep repeating until you do something. Or until you do what you're meant to do, then that will go away, and you'll be like, it'll be something else. So
Oh, well, look, thank you so much for talking to us today. I love sharing your journey and your gifts, and as listeners have heard me say, I know how incredible you are at giving readings. So if anyone wants to reach out, make sure that you do contact Annette. On the details will be popping below. And once again, thanks for having you on the show.
No worries. Thanks, Marika. Bye.
Bye.